Hi, today's January 25th, 2021. I'm looking at some art world news with a warm cup of coffee. Today I wanted to take a look at another article about SFAI before we get going. If you like this kind of content, please like, comment, and subscribe. And with that, here we go. In a previous episode, I took a look at SFAI's considerations for selling the Diego Rivera mural that they have on campus. Now it seems a chairwoman has chosen to resign from her position, so let's take a look. Pam Rorke Levy has resigned from her position as chairwoman of the San Francisco Art Institute, a 150-year-old college that has struggled over the last year to emerge from a multi-million-dollar debt and declining enrollment despite its history of training artists like Kehinde Wiley, Catherine Opie, and Annie Leibovitz. I feel I can take a step back, Ms. Levy said in a statement Thursday, in which she expressed optimism about debt restructuring and new leadership would mean that SFAI has the runway to rebuild itself. Her departure comes amid criticism over discussions of the sale of a Diego Rivera mural worth $50 million that would have given SFAI a way to close its budget gap and now seems to be on hold because of a move to give it landmark status. The financial pressures have motivated the Board of Regents of the University of California to step in last fall to help by buying the institute's $19.7 million of debt from a private bank, an effort designed to prevent a public sale of the school's Chestnut Street campus and its art collection. The Institute is cooperating with an audit of its finances by the State Attorney General's office, which is reviewing the last 7 years of the Institute's operations. The chairwoman, whose 6-year term expired last summer, had stayed on to, quote, support SFAI through the additional challenges caused by the current health crisis, she said in a statement. She had defended her efforts, saying she had acted to save the school and that she was taking necessary steps in keeping one of the last remaining colleges on the West Coast exclusively dedicated to contemporary art in operation. Like other small colleges and art institutions across our country, we face formidable challenges, she wrote earlier this month in a statement to the San Francisco legislators who voted to initiate landmark designation of the Rivera mural to block any potential sale against the school's objections. As fiduciaries of SFAI, the trustees are obligated to consider and pursue all options for putting our assets to work, including the mural. But critics say that the board's efforts to manage its financial crisis may have put the school's future in jeopardy. One of them has objected to a decision at a December 17th board meeting at which trustees voted to spend $1.5 million from restricted endowment funds, which the current board chairman says they understood to be a bridge loan, which would eventually be paid back. John Sanger, a trustee emeritus and retired lawyer, cautioned during the board meeting that under state law, the school needed approval from the donors of the funds or the California Attorney General's office before it could spend restricted funds for a purpose outside that designated by the donors. Another former trustee, Tom Laughlin, raised similar concerns about the use of funds before resigning January 16th from a committee created by the board to revise the school's governance. That committee dissolved after sharing its concerns about the school's financial situation with the broader community and calling for Ms. Levy's resignation. I have seen their numbers, and they have a giant hole in their budget, Mr. Laughlin, an artist and non-practicing lawyer, said. There are students paying tuition right now to a school that has projected it could run out of money by April. This article was written late January, so there's only a few months until the time period that he's referring to. According to Ms. Levy, the school's legal counsel advised that the board's decision on the restricted funds did not require the approval of donors or the state's attorney general. One expert in nonprofit law said otherwise. Douglas M. Mancino, the former chairman of a committee with the American Bar Association focused on issues affecting tax-exempt organizations, describing the use of restricted endowment funds in this case as, quote, unusual and very problematic, end quote. Using funds that are donor restricted for something other than their intended purpose would be a breach of fiduciary duty, Mr. Mencino said. You could probably get a court to eventually rule on the issue, but it's a process you would have to go through. You can't just unilaterally use those funds without approval. According to the Institute's new chairman, Lonnie Graham, a photographer, the board had re examined its use of the restricted funds earlier this week and voted to secure a new loan providing more than $7 million to help SFAI survive the fiscal year and restore endowment funds. I want to make sure that the school has a future, Mr. Graham. Said Mr. Graham. We are trying, we are really trying, but we are not trying to do anything illegal. This is really sad, I think, for people who attended and are still attending this school, as well as for people who work at SFAI. It definitely feels like the school is on its last leg, and the leg has like a major fracture. Like it's almost ready to break. I can't predict the future, but my 2 cents are that the school won't survive. It just seems like every option that's considered for saving the school is considered either controversial or completely sidelined as a non starter. My greatest concern, however, isn't for the school itself. The school's success or failure, in my opinion, comes from a lack of risk management. And sometimes learning lessons are fatal for businesses, even for individuals. If you're constantly spending money and purchasing nice things, but aren't thinking of ways to hedge against risk while you're in a position of prosperity, you leave yourself exposed to failure during economic downturns or crises. So I don't feel bad for the school itself. I feel bad for the students to a degree. It was their choice to attend the school. Whether or not they did their own research about the school prior to attending is a different matter altogether. But what are these students going to do if the school fails before they can graduate? Especially considering the cost of attending SFII, which I think is massively overpriced to begin with. How are these people going to pay off their debts? I certainly don't think they're going to get their money back. And if they do, it won't be without its own struggles. Not to mention the time and effort that these students will lose to a failing school. Furthermore, what about the people who work at SFAI with an essentially failing institution and the evolving set of crises in San Francisco? Where are these people going to go to find work? I'm sure some people will be able to be more agile or flexible than others, but the job market looks pretty grim at the moment. And let's not forget the small businesses that position themselves to serve the school community as well. I'm not sure. I'm sure they will deal with some series of cuts in their sales. As for the school itself, although it's not the best way to express confidence in their ability to survive, let alone thrive, I feel like maybe something should have been communicated to students who were considering attending the school before they made that decision in the first place. I'm not sure if there was something that was mentioned, but I'm sure far fewer people would have attended SFAI with that knowledge in mind, and I certainly think that would have been the more responsible thing to do. I wonder if the school is providing any sort of coaching or resources for students that might be anxious or uncomfortable with the situation or are considering leaving altogether. That would also be a responsible thing to do. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I personally don't think the school will survive. My confidence in the sort of school survival is pretty low at the moment. It also seems like people are starting to look for someone to blame, or looking for someone who, wasn't trying hard enough, or something similar. I do think that the stage is set at the moment for scavengers and for vultures to begin showing up, but who knows? We'll see what happens in the future. And with that, until next time, thanks for listening.